The morning sun bathed Los Angeles in a warm, golden glow, giving the bustling city an almost serene quality. On Melrose Avenue, the air carried the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and buttery croissants as patrons lounged outside a high-end cafe. Among them sat 18-year-old Barron Trump, clad in a plain black hoodie and aviator sunglasses, his tall frame blending in with the crowd. For a young man accustomed to public scrutiny, moments like this were rare treasures, a chance to fade into the background and simply observe the world. Barron had always been drawn to quiet reflection, and Los Angeles, with its mix of glamour and grit, offered an endless array of stories unfolding before his eyes. As he nursed his cappuccino, his gaze wandered to a scruffy brown dog trotting along the sidewalk. The dog, thin and unkempt, paused by a shiny black motorcycle parked near the curb. Its nose twitched as it sniffed the leather saddlebag, perhaps hoping for a stray morsel of food. The sight brought a faint smile to Barron's lips. Amid the chaos of the city, the dog seemed so innocent, so unbothered by the rush of humanity around it. That moment of quiet observation shattered abruptly. The cafe door swung open with a jarring clang, and a burly man in a leather jacket stormed out. His boots thudded against the pavement as he spotted the dog near his motorcycle. Without hesitation, the man delivered a sharp, vicious kick to the animal's side. The dog let out a piercing yelp that echoed down the street, its body crumpling momentarily before it scrambled away, limping into the crowd. A collective gasp rippled through the cafe, but no one moved. Some looked away, unwilling to confront the biker, while others muttered their disapproval under their breath. The man, seemingly oblivious to the outrage, pulled out his phone and began scrolling, his face a mask of indifference. Barron felt a surge of anger rise within him, his chest tightening as he watched the scene unfold. He set his coffee cup down, his mind racing. For a moment, Barron hesitated. The logical part of his brain told him to stay out of it. Confronting the man could escalate the situation, and besides, he wasn't looking to draw attention to himself. But the image of the dog's pain was etched in his mind, and the man's callousness gnawed at him. Barron reached for his phone, his fingers trembling slightly as he unlocked it. Pretending to check his messages, he discreetly snapped a photo of the man, capturing the cruel set of his jaw and the distinctive tattoos snaking up his neck. He zoomed in on the motorcycle's license plate, ensuring the details were clear. As the dog disappeared into the crowd, Barron's thoughts churned. He had witnessed acts of cruelty before, but this felt different. The man hadn't acted out of fear or self-defense. He had lashed out simply because he could. Barron's upbringing had taught him the weight of responsibility, the importance of using one's position to make a difference. But was this the right moment to step into the spotlight? The scene replayed in his mind. The kick, the yelp, the man's cold indifference. He couldn't let it go unanswered. Sliding his phone into his pocket, Barron leaned back in his chair, his coffee now forgotten. His decision was made. This wasn't just about the dog. It was about standing up against cruelty, no matter how small the act. Little did he know, this quiet moment of resolve would set off a chain of events far beyond anything he could have imagined, pulling him into a storm of controversy, justice, and reflection. Barron Trump sat on the edge of his hotel bed, his phone heavy in his hand. The photo of the biker, his leather-clad figure standing by the sleek black motorcycle, filled the screen. Beneath it, Barron had typed a caption, simple but pointed. "This man just kicked a defenseless dog. Let's find him." His thumb hovered over the post button. Once he pressed it, there would be no going back. The world would see, and he would be responsible for whatever happened next. He took a deep breath, recalling the scene from earlier that day. The yelp of the dog still echoed in his mind, as vivid as the moment it happened. His anger hadn't subsided. It had transformed into a cold determination. Barron thought of his upbringing, of the lessons instilled in him about justice and standing up for what was right. With a final glance at the photo, he tapped the button. The post went live. First, nothing happened. Barron refreshed his feed, the post sitting quietly among pictures of brunch plates and vacation selfies. He reminded himself that his following wasn't massive. His account, though verified, was private, used mostly to keep in touch with friends and follow artists and causes he cared about. But as the minutes ticked by, the first likes and comments began to trickle in. Then they multiplied. "Disgusting. Let's find this guy." One comment read, "Animal cruelty is unacceptable. Someone knows who he is." Another chimed in. Within an hour, the post was reshared hundreds of times. Influencers with massive followings picked it up, amplifying Barron's voice far beyond his modest circle. Animal rights organizations tagged his post, urging their followers to identify the man in the photo. By the time Barron went to bed, the hashtag dogkicker was trending in Los Angeles. He woke the next morning to chaos. His phone buzzed relentlessly, notifications pouring in faster than he could read them. His post had reached over 1 million views, and the comments were relentless. People were angry, demanding justice not only for the dog but for every animal mistreated by humans. Some were even tagging local authorities, urging them to act. But as the outrage grew, so did the intensity of the rhetoric. Among the messages of support and calls for action were darker, more disturbing comments. People were sharing the photo with captions like, "Let's ruin this guy's life," and "He doesn't deserve to breathe the same air as us." Others were attempting to track down his identity, digging through social media for clues. The collective power of the internet was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Barron scrolled through the flood of comments, his stomach tightening. This wasn't exactly what he'd planned. He had wanted awareness, accountability, but this felt like a mob forming, ready to tear someone apart. He thought of his father's advice about public life, about how easily things could spiral out of control once the court of public opinion took over. For the first time, Barron wondered if he'd made a mistake. Still, he couldn't shake the memory of the dog's yelp or the biker's callous expression. The man deserved to face consequences, didn't he? Barron told himself that this was justice in action, that the internet's outrage was a natural response to an act of cruelty. Yet, a small voice in the back of his mind whispered otherwise, asking him if he truly understood what he'd unleashed. As the day wore on, news outlets began picking up the story. Headlines ranged from "Animal cruelty sparks social media outrage" to "Viral post by Barron Trump ignites debate on justice and accountability." Barron's name was now part of the narrative, though his initial intention had been to remain in the background. Reporters reached out to him for comments, their questions probing, "What do you hope to achieve with this post?" And "Do you think this level of outrage is justified?" By evening, hashtag dogkicker was the #1 trend nationwide. The man in the photo, now being identified by internet sleuths as Travis T-Rex Calloway, had become the most hated person on social media. Barron sat in his hotel room watching the storm unfold, with a mix of satisfaction and unease. He had started something, but where it would lead was no longer in his control. By the time the sun rose over Los Angeles, the internet was already ablaze with theories, speculation, and determined sleuthing. The photo Barron had posted had become the centerpiece of a virtual manhunt. Armed with little more than an image and a license plate, online communities sprang into action, determined to identify the man who had kicked the dog. Reddit threads, Twitter feeds, and Facebook groups were flooded with posts analyzing every detail of the image, from the tattoo on the biker's neck to the reflective glint on his helmet. Within hours, the internet's collective detective work bore fruit. The man was identified as Travis T-Rex Calloway, a 34-year-old stuntman with a reputation for wild antics and a checkered past. His IMDb page revealed a string of minor credits in action movies and television shows, and his public Instagram account offered glimpses of his life. Photos of him performing stunts, posing with bikes, and partying with friends. But those images, once harmless, now served as fuel for the growing outrage. Travis's online persona was quickly dissected, his posts scrutinized for evidence of past behavior. Someone unearthed a video of him arguing with a pedestrian over a parking spot, which further stoked the flames. Though the video was unrelated to the dog incident, it painted a picture of a man prone to aggression. Comments poured in on every platform. "This guy has anger issues. No surprise he'd hurt a dog." Let's make sure he never works again. The internet had found its villain. As the momentum grew, traditional media picked up the story. News outlets aired the photo Barron had posted, alongside headlines like, "Internet outrage targets stuntman in animal cruelty scandal." Reporters camped outside Travis's apartment in Hollywood, hoping to catch a glimpse of the man who had sparked national fury. But Travis remained elusive, his silence only adding to the mystery. Barron watched the events unfold with a mix of fascination and dread from the comfort of his hotel room. He scrolled through his social media feed, noting how quickly the narrative had shifted. What began as a simple call for accountability had morphed into something much larger, a cultural reckoning with animal cruelty and the ethics of public shaming. While many applauded Barron's actions, others began to question the morality of the internet's response. "This is mob justice," one tweet argued. "We don't even know the full story. Public shaming is dangerous. What if they got the wrong guy?" Another commented. Barron couldn't ignore the growing debate. He had wanted justice for the dog, but now he wondered if justice was even possible in a world where anger spread faster than facts. He thought of his post, the caption that had seemed so simple at the time. "Let's find him." Did he anticipate this level of backlash? Did he foresee how the internet would turn Travis's life upside down? Meanwhile, Travis was learning just how powerful the internet could be. By mid-afternoon, his social media accounts were flooded with comments, ranging from angry rebukes to outright threats. His Instagram DMs were a minefield of hate, with messages like, "You're a monster," and "I hope you rot in jail." His personal phone number was leaked, and prank calls began pouring in. Even his professional contacts weren't spared. One of his upcoming projects quietly dropped him from the roster. Travis wasn't the only one feeling the heat. His family and friends, some of whom had nothing to do with the incident, found themselves targeted as well. His younger sister, who ran a small boutique in Pasadena, had to disable the comments on her business's social media pages after they were inundated with messages condemning her brother. The ripple effects of the internet's wrath extended far and wide. As the day wore on, a clearer picture of Travis emerged. Interviews with former colleagues described him as a talented but hot-headed individual, prone to impulsive decisions. One stunt coordinator, speaking anonymously, admitted that Travis had been disciplined on set for aggressive behavior, but added, "He's not a bad guy, he just doesn't think before he acts." These nuanced portrayals, however, were lost in the tidal wave of public condemnation. Back at his hotel, Barron felt a knot of unease growing in his chest. He had succeeded in exposing Travis, but at what cost? The internet's thirst for vengeance seemed insatiable, and Barron wasn't sure he could control it. As he refreshed his feed, he noticed a new wave of comments questioning his role in the unfolding drama. "Is Barron Trump really the one to lead this charge?" One comment read. "Rich kid plays hero while a man's life gets ruined," another said. Barron turned off his phone, his mind swirling with conflicting emotions. He wanted accountability, not destruction. But as the storm he had unleashed continued to grow, he realized that stopping it might be harder than he'd imagined. By the third day, Barron Trump could no longer remain a passive observer. What had started as a simple social media post had escalated into a nationwide spectacle. News anchors debated the ethics of public shaming on primetime television. Hashtags like #JusticeForLucky and #MobMentality trended on Twitter, and the paparazzi had begun staking out Barron's hotel. The pressure to address the situation was mounting, and Barron knew that staying silent would only fuel speculation. Barron had always been wary of the spotlight. Growing up in one of the most famous families in the world, he understood how quickly narratives could spiral out of control. This time, however, he couldn't retreat into the shadows. He had set these events in motion, and it was his responsibility to respond. After consulting with a close circle of friends and advisors, Barron decided to address the issue directly through a video message on Instagram. Sitting in his hotel room, Barron set up his phone on a tripod. He took a deep breath, adjusted his hoodie, and hit record. The camera captured a young man who looked both confident and contemplative, his piercing gaze framed by the soft light filtering through the window. "Hey, everyone," he began, his tone steady but sincere. "I want to talk about the post I made a few days ago, the one about the man who kicked the dog. First, I want to thank everyone who has spoken up against animal cruelty. Your passion and commitment to justice are inspiring. But I also want to address what's been happening since then." Barron paused, choosing his next words carefully. "When I posted that photo, my goal was to shine a light on something that I felt was wrong. I wanted to hold someone accountable for their actions, not to incite threats or harassment. What we're seeing now, the doxing, the hate messages, the vandalism, it's gone too far. That's not justice. That's a mob." The video struck a chord. Barron's calm demeanor and willingness to acknowledge the complexities of the situation resonated with many viewers. Within minutes, the comment section was flooded with support. "This is what leadership looks like," one commenter wrote. "Thank you for addressing this in such a thoughtful way," others said. However, others remained critical. "You started this, Barron," one user posted. "You don't get to wash your hands of the consequences." The video quickly went viral, shared by celebrities, animal rights groups, and news outlets. It reframed the narrative, shifting the focus from the incident itself to the broader implications of online activism. Was it possible to demand justice without crossing the line into cruelty? Could public accountability coexist with compassion? The reactions to Barron's video were as polarized as the incident itself. Supporters praised his maturity and willingness to confront the unintended consequences of his actions. Critics accused him of hypocrisy, arguing that he had unleashed a storm he couldn't control. Meanwhile, Barron's message did little to quell the media frenzy. Reporters dissected every word of his video, analyzing his motivations and questioning his sincerity. Some speculated that the video was a calculated PR move designed to deflect criticism and protect his reputation. Others saw it as a genuine attempt to take responsibility for a situation that had spiraled out of control. Amid the chaos, Barron found solace in a few quiet moments of reflection. He thought about the dog, whose fate remained uncertain, and the man at the center of the controversy. Travis Calloway was no saint, but was he the monster the internet had made him out to be? Barron wasn't sure. What he did know was that the world was watching, and his next move would be crucial. By the end of the day, Barron's video had garnered millions of views and reignited the debate about public shaming in the digital age. Was the internet a tool for justice or a weapon for destruction? Barron had no easy answers, but he was determined to find a way forward, one that balanced accountability with humanity. For the first time since posting the photo, he felt a glimmer of hope that something good could come from the chaos. The silence from Travis Calloway ended abruptly when his face appeared on a local news broadcast. The once boisterous stuntman, known for his fearless stunts and swaggering demeanor, now seemed diminished, a shadow of the man portrayed in his public persona. The interview, hastily arranged with a local journalist, was his first attempt to tell his side of the story. Amid the whirlwind of accusations, threats, and relentless scrutiny, Travis sat stiffly in a chair, his leather jacket replaced with a plain hoodie, his hands fidgeted in his lap, betraying his unease. The interviewer, a sharp but empathetic woman named Lydia Hart, opened the segment with a recap of the viral incident. As the footage of Barron Trump's original post flashed on the screen, Travis's jaw tightened and he exhaled deeply. "Travis, you've been at the center of a storm these past few days," Lydia began. "Why did you decide to come forward now?" He hesitated, glancing off camera before speaking. I didn't think it would get this bad," he admitted, his voice hoarse. "When I kicked that dog, I wasn't thinking. Scratched my bike, and I lost my temper. I'm not proud of it. I was having a bad day, and I made a terrible decision. I didn't realize anyone saw, let alone someone like Barron Trump." The rawness of his confession struck a chord with some viewers, though others remained skeptical. His words, while regretful, didn't erase the act itself. Lydia leaned forward, her expression neutral but probing. "Many people are calling this a moment of accountability. Others say it's gone too far. What's your perspective?" Travis's shoulders slumped. Look, I get it. What I did was wrong, and I deserve to be called out for it. But what's happening now? His voice cracked, and he paused to collect himself. My family's getting death threats. My sister's boutique was vandalized. People are sending me messages saying I should die. This isn't accountability. It's a witch hunt. The camera zoomed in slightly, capturing the tension in his face. I've apologized to my friends and family, but I want to say it here. I'm sorry to the dog, to its owner if they're out there, and to everyone I've hurt by my actions. I made a mistake, and I'll spend the rest of my life making up for it. But I don't know how to fix this. The interview aired later that evening and immediately polarized the public. Some viewers empathized with Travis, arguing that everyone deserves a second chance, especially when they show genuine remorse. He admitted his mistake. Let him move on, one comment read. Others were less forgiving, pointing out that his regret seemed more about the backlash than the act itself. He's only sorry because he got caught, a viral tweet claimed. Barron watched the interview from his hotel room, his emotions a tangled mix of anger, guilt, and doubt. For all his flaws, Travis didn't seem like a monster, just a man who had let his emotions get the better of him. But could someone like Travis truly change? And was it Barron's place to judge him? The media's response to the interview added another layer of complexity to the unfolding story. Pundits debated whether Travis's apology was genuine or calculated, while opinion pieces delved into the ethics of public shaming. Some articles defended Barron's actions as a necessary call for justice, while others criticized him for igniting a firestorm without considering the consequences. Amid the chaos, new details about Travis's life began to surface. Former colleagues described him as talented but volatile, a man whose temper often got him into trouble. Yet, others painted a more sympathetic picture. A childhood friend recounted how Travis had once rescued a stray kitten from a storm drain, nurturing it back to health. The conflicting narratives only deepened the public's divide, with some calling for his redemption and others demanding his permanent ostracization. For Travis, the fallout was unrelenting. Studios quietly removed him from upcoming projects, and his agent dropped him without ceremony. His once thriving social media accounts were now barren, wiped clean in an attempt to escape the barrage of hate. Each day brought a new headline, a new wave of outrage, and a new challenge to navigate. Despite his remorse, Travis struggled to find a way forward. The incident had not only cost him his career, but also shaken his sense of identity. Who was he now, if not the brash, fearless stuntman? Could he rebuild a life from the ruins of his reputation? These questions haunted him as he tried to chart a path toward redemption. Meanwhile, Barron found himself grappling with his own role in the drama. Watching Travis's interview, he couldn't ignore the humanity behind the headlines. This wasn't the story of a villain and a hero. It was a story of mistakes, consequences, and the fragile line between accountability and cruelty. For the first time since posting the photo, Barron began to wonder if the scales of justice had tipped too far, and if it was possible to set them right. In a surprising twist, the story took a new turn when a video surfaced online. A young woman named Clara Hernandez, a veterinary technician from East Los Angeles, posted a heartfelt update about the injured dog at the center of the controversy. The scruffy brown pup, now named Lucky, lay on a soft blanket in her living room, its injured leg carefully bandaged. The video opened with Clara sitting beside Lucky, stroking his head gently as she spoke directly to the camera. "Hi everyone," she began, her voice soft but resolute. "This is Lucky, the dog from the viral video, and I want you to know that he's safe now. I found him a few blocks from Melrose Avenue the day it happened. He was scared and limping, but thankfully his injuries aren't life-threatening. With some care and love, he's going to make a full recovery." The video quickly went viral, drawing millions of views within hours. Lucky's story, once a symbol of cruelty and outrage, now became one of hope and resilience. Clara detailed how she had stumbled upon Lucky, her voice breaking slightly as she described his initial fear and pain. "He didn't trust me at first," she admitted, glancing at the dog with a sad smile. "But after some food and patience, he let me help him, Animals like Lucky don't deserve what happened to them. No animal does. Clara's video ignited a wave of compassion. People from around the world reached out, offering donations to cover Lucky's medical expenses. Animal rights organizations amplified her message, using it to advocate for stronger animal protection laws. Lucky became a symbol of survival and redemption, his story touching hearts far beyond Los Angeles. Barron watched Clara's video in silence, the weight of his actions settling deeper in his chest. For days, he had been consumed by the fallout of his post, the anger it unleashed and the ethical questions it raised. But seeing Lucky alive and cared for brought a moment of clarity. This was why he had acted in the first place, to give a voice to the voiceless, to ensure that cruelty didn't go unanswered. Yet, the path to this moment had been fraught with unintended consequences. Determined to help, Barron reached out to Clara privately. He offered to cover the remaining costs of Lucky's medical bills and to support her work as a veterinary technician. Clara, initially stunned by the direct message from someone so high-profile, accepted with gratitude. In their exchange, Barron found an unexpected ally. Clara's kindness and grounded perspective reminded him of what truly mattered: the well-being of the innocent and the power of collective action. Meanwhile, Lucky's story became a unifying force in a city divided by the controversy. The public, once focused on anger and blame, now rallied around the dog's recovery. Photos of Lucky wagging his tail or resting peacefully in Clara's care flooded social media, accompanied by hashtags like #LuckyTheDog and #HealingTogether. Even those critical of Barron's initial actions found themselves moved by the dog's journey. The attention also brought new scrutiny to Travis Calloway. Animal rights activists began demanding not only his accountability but systemic changes to prevent similar incidents in the future. Proposals for stricter animal cruelty laws gained momentum, with petitions garnering hundreds of thousands of signatures. Lawmakers, sensing the public's passion, began drafting new legislation to increase penalties for animal abuse. For Clara, the whirlwind of attention was overwhelming but rewarding. She used the platform to highlight other animals in need, sharing stories of rescues and urging people to adopt from shelters. Her modest apartment became a hub for activism, with volunteers and donations pouring in. Through it all, Lucky remained by her side, his trust in her growing day by day. But not everyone was ready to let go of the anger. Some corners of the internet continued to target Travis, dismissing his apology and questioning his sincerity. The return of Lucky only seemed to reignite their fury, with many arguing that his recovery didn't absolve Travis of his actions. Others, however, saw an opportunity for redemption. Maybe Travis should meet Lucky, one commenter suggested. It could be a step toward making things right. The idea gained traction, sparking discussions about forgiveness, accountability, and the potential for change. For Barron, the emergence of Lucky's story was both a relief and a reminder. The dog's survival had given the saga a new focus, shifting the narrative from outrage to hope. Yet, it also highlighted the complexities of justice. Could Travis, the man who caused so much pain, truly atone for his actions? And what role would Barron play in shaping the next chapter? As he watched Lucky wag his tail in Clara's video, Barron resolved to keep fighting, not for revenge, but for progress. The dog's return had reignited his sense of purpose, reminding him that even in a world divided by anger, compassion could still shine through. The city of Los Angeles buzzed with conversations about justice, accountability, and forgiveness, as the story of Travis Calloway, Lucky the dog, and Barron Trump continued to dominate headlines. On the surface, Lucky's recovery seemed to be a beacon of hope, a story of resilience that could unite a divided public. Yet, the debate sparked by the incident revealed deeper fractures in society. Fractures that played out on social media, in public forums, and even on the streets. Protests erupted across the city, with animal rights activists leading the charge. Crowds gathered outside government buildings, demanding harsher penalties for animal cruelty. Signs bearing slogans like "Justice for Lucky" and "Protect the Voiceless" bobbed in the air, as speakers called for change. Activists cited Lucky's story as proof that current laws were inadequate, urging lawmakers to pass legislation that would ensure no animals suffered like he did. At the same time, another group began to form, a smaller but vocal contingent pushing back against what they saw as online vigilantism. These protesters, many of them legal scholars and free speech advocates, argued that the public's outrage had crossed a line. Their signs carried messages like accountability, not annihilation, and stop the mob mentality. They claimed that while Travis's actions were reprehensible, the online harassment and doxing he endured were disproportionate and dangerous. The two groups often clashed, both online and in person. Heated debates broke out on Twitter and in city council meetings, with each side accusing the other of missing the bigger picture. For some, the focus was on Lucky and ensuring justice for abused animals. For others, it was about drawing boundaries around the internet's power to ruin lives, even for those who had made mistakes. Los Angeles, a city known for its diversity of thought and expression, had become a microcosm of a broader societal debate. Barron Trump, now at the epicenter of this cultural clash, found himself pulled in multiple directions. On one hand, he supported the activists' push for stronger animal rights laws. He saw their work as a continuation of the justice he sought when he posted about Lucky. On the other hand, he couldn't ignore the arguments against mob justice. Barron himself had grown uneasy with the intensity of the backlash against Travis. The threats, the vandalism, the attacks on his family. None of it sat right with him. Invitations began pouring in for Barron to speak at rallies and events. Some animal rights groups wanted him to be the face of their movement, while others hoped he would address the ethics of social media activism. Despite his initial hesitation, Barron decided to attend an animal rights rally held in front of the Los Angeles County Courthouse. It was his first public appearance since his viral post, and he knew it would be scrutinized heavily. Standing on a makeshift stage, Barron adjusted the microphone and looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of faces stared back, a sea of anticipation and emotion. The energy was electric, a mixture of anger, hope, and determination. He took a deep breath and began to speak. "I'm here today because I believe in justice," Barron said, his voice steady but earnest. "When I posted that photo of Travis Calloway, I wanted to hold him accountable for what he did to Lucky. I wanted to send a message that cruelty, whether it's toward animals or people, is never acceptable. But I've also seen how that message has been twisted." He paused, letting his words sink in. Justice is not about tearing people down. It's about building something better. Yes, Travis made a terrible mistake, and yes, he should face consequences, but those consequences should come through the right channels. Through laws, through education, through change, not through harassment, not through hate. The crowd erupted in applause, though a few murmurs of dissent rippled through the audience. Barron continued, addressing the protesters on the other side of the debate. "To those who believe in redemption, I hear you. We can't lose sight of the fact that people are capable of growth. But growth doesn't come without accountability. That's what this movement is about. Creating a society where mistakes are met with opportunities to learn, not with a free pass to hurt others." His speech struck a chord with many, praising his maturity and balanced perspective. Yet, as expected, it also drew criticism. Some activists felt he was too lenient on Travis, while others accused him of trying to play both sides. Barron, however, wasn't concerned with pleasing everyone. His goal was to shift the conversation away from anger and toward solutions. As the rally dispersed, Barron felt a small sense of accomplishment. He had used his platform to advocate for change, and he hoped it would inspire others to channel their energy constructively. Still, he knew the road ahead would be challenging. The city was deeply divided, and bridging the gap would take more than speeches and hashtags. Back in her apartment, Clara watched the live stream of Barron's speech while Lucky snoozed beside her. She felt a renewed sense of purpose. Lucky's recovery had sparked something powerful, and Clara was determined to keep the momentum going. She began drafting plans for a nonprofit organization focused on rescuing and rehabilitating abused animals, envisioning a legacy that would outlast the controversy. Meanwhile, Travis Calloway remained in the shadows, watching the protests and debates unfold from a safe distance. He saw the signs bearing his name, the faces filled with anger and disdain, and wondered if there was any path to redemption. For now, all he could do was wait and hope that the city, and perhaps the world, would eventually find a way to move forward. The message arrived in Barron Trump's inbox late one evening, long after the day's debates and protests had died down. The name attached to it immediately caught his attention: Travis Calloway. For a moment, Barron hesitated, his thumb hovering over the notification. Since his initial post, Travis had remained a figure of controversy, his actions dissected and debated endlessly. Barron had not expected any direct communication from the man he had inadvertently thrust into the public eye. Curiosity eventually won out, and he opened the message. The words were raw and surprisingly vulnerable. "Barron, I know you probably hate me, and I wouldn't blame you if you did. I've been watching everything unfold, and I know I've messed up more than I ever thought possible. I don't know if I can fix it, but I'd like the chance to try. Could we talk? Just once?" Barron stared at the screen, conflicted. His instinct told him to ignore it, to let Travis deal with the consequences of his actions on his own. But something about the tone of the message stopped him. It wasn't defensive or angry. It was an appeal, one that felt genuine. After a long moment of deliberation, Barron replied, "Okay, let's meet." They agreed to meet at a small diner on the outskirts of Los Angeles, away from the media frenzy that had engulfed both their lives. Barron arrived first, his hoodie pulled up to shield his face from prying eyes. He chose a booth in the corner, his nerves buzzing with anticipation. When Travis finally walked in, his demeanor was nothing like the brash, fearless persona Barron had seen in photos and videos. He looked tired, his shoulders slumped, and his face etched with worry. "Thanks for meeting me," Travis said as he slid into the booth, his voice low, almost hesitant. Barron nodded, studying the man across from him. This was the first time he had seen Travis in person, and the contrast between the public image and the person sitting before him was stark. Gone was the cocky biker. In his place was a man who seemed weighed down by regret. Travis wasted no time getting to the point. "I wanted to say I'm sorry," he began, his hands clasped tightly on the table. "Not just to you, but to Lucky, to everyone I've hurt. I wasn't thinking that day. I was angry. I took it out on a dog and it was wrong. There's no excuse for it." Barron remained silent, letting him continue. "I've been trying to figure out how to make it right," Travis said, his voice cracking slightly. "But every time I try to do something good, it feels like people just see it as me trying to save my own skin. I get it. I don't deserve anyone's trust right now, but I want to change. I need to change." For the first time since the incident began, Barron saw a glimmer of something unexpected: humanity. He had spent weeks viewing Travis as a villain, the embodiment of cruelty. But now, sitting face to face, he saw a man grappling with the weight of his mistakes. It was clear that Travis wasn't just looking for forgiveness. He was looking for a way forward. "I don't hate you," Barron said finally, his voice measured, "but I can't speak for everyone else. What you did was wrong, and people are right to hold you accountable. The question is, what are you going to do next?" Travis nodded, his jaw tightening. "I want to help. I've already started volunteering at animal shelters, but I know it's not enough. I want to do more, to turn this into something positive. I just don't know how." Barron leaned back in his seat, considering his words carefully. "Start small," he said. "Keep volunteering, keep learning, and stop trying to convince people you've changed. Just show them through your actions. Over time, people will see whether or not you're sincere." The conversation shifted, becoming less tense, as they spoke about the broader issues the incident had highlighted: animal cruelty, public shaming, and the internet's power to amplify both justice and destruction. Travis shared stories from his childhood, revealing a complicated past that included both moments of kindness and a history of anger management struggles. Barron listened, his initial skepticism softening into understanding. By the end of the night, something unexpected had happened, the beginnings of a fragile truce. While Barron couldn't offer Travis full forgiveness, nor could he undo the damage his post had caused. He did offer a way forward. "If you really want to make a difference," he said, "maybe start by helping Lucky. Talk to Clara. Work with her to help other animals like him." Travis agreed, his expression a mixture of relief and determination. As they parted ways, Barron couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. This wasn't the resolution he had imagined when he posted that photo, but it felt like a step in the right direction. For Travis, the meeting marked the beginning of a long road to redemption. For Barron, it was a reminder of the complexities of justice. And for Los Angeles, it was a quiet moment of reconciliation in a saga that had divided the city. Whether it was enough to heal the wounds left in the incident's wake remained to be seen. But for the first time, there was a sense that healing was possible. The sun rose over Los Angeles with a sense of cautious optimism, a city still buzzing from the headlines of Barron Trump and Travis Calloway's unexpected meeting. Though their quiet diner conversation had not yet reached the public, whispers of change were already beginning to ripple through the community. For Travis, the meeting had planted a seed of hope, a chance to prove that he could grow beyond his mistake. For Barron, it had clarified his role in the unfolding story to not just demand accountability, but also facilitate a path toward redemption. Travis wasted no time putting Barron's advice into action. His first call the next morning was to Clara Hernandez. The voice on the other end of the line was cautious but polite as she answered, "Hi, this is Clara," she said. "Clara, it's Travis Calloway," he began, his voice tinged with apprehension. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I wanted to talk about Lucky and about how I can help." Clara was silent for a moment, weighing her response. Lucky had become a symbol of resilience, and while she had harbored anger toward Travis for his actions, she also believed in the power of change. "All right," she said finally. "Come by the clinic tomorrow, we'll talk." When Travis arrived at the small veterinary clinic, he was met with curious glances and hushed whispers. Clara greeted him at the door, Lucky wagging his tail cautiously at her feet. The sight of the dog, the very one he had hurt, filled Travis with guilt. He crouched down, his movements slow and deliberate, and extended his hand. "Hey there, Lucky," he murmured. The dog sniffed his hand before pulling back, unsure but not hostile. It was a small moment, but it felt monumental. Inside, Clara wasted no time. "If you're serious about helping, there's plenty to do," she said, handing him a list of tasks. "But understand this, actions speak louder than words. Don't just talk about change. Show it." Travis nodded, diving into the work. Over the next few weeks, he became a regular fixture at the clinic, cleaning kennels, assisting with rescues, and learning about animal rehabilitation. At first, the volunteers kept their distance, wary of his intentions, but as the days turned into weeks, their skepticism began to thaw. Travis wasn't just going through the motions. He was fully invested, often staying late to help with the most challenging tasks. Meanwhile, Barron and Clara continued their collaboration. Inspired by Lucky's story, they launched an initiative called Second Chances, a nonprofit aimed at rescuing and rehabilitating abused animals while promoting education about animal rights. The organization quickly gained traction, with donations pouring in from supporters around the world. Barron used his platform to amplify their message, hosting live Q&A sessions and sharing updates about Lucky's progress. Travis, initially hesitant to become the face of any movement, was eventually convinced to share his journey as part of the initiative. In a heartfelt video produced by the nonprofit, he opened up about his mistakes and the lessons he had learned. "I used to think strength was about being tough, about never showing weakness," he said, his voice steady but emotional. "But real strength is admitting when you're wrong and doing the hard work to make things right." The video was met with mixed reactions. Some viewers applauded his honesty and willingness to change, while others remained skeptical, accusing him of trying to repair his image. Despite the criticism, the video sparked important conversations about accountability and the potential for redemption. As Second Chances grew, so did its impact. The organization partnered with local shelters and schools, hosting workshops on animal welfare and providing resources for pet owners. Lucky became the mascot of the movement, his story inspiring countless others to take action. Clara, once a quiet veterinary technician, found herself stepping into a leadership role, her passion and dedication driving the nonprofit's mission. For Travis, the work became a form of therapy. Each day at the clinic was a reminder of his past mistakes, but it was also an opportunity to build something better. He began to forge relationships with the volunteers, sharing laughs and stories during breaks. Slowly, he started to feel like part of a community, one that valued compassion and growth over judgment. Barron, watching from the sidelines, felt a sense of pride and relief. What had started as an impulsive social media post had transformed into a movement that was making a tangible difference. Yet he remained aware of the delicate balance they were navigating. Redemption was not a destination but a journey, one that required continuous effort and self-reflection. The city of Los Angeles, once divided by outrage and debate, began to find common ground in the story of Lucky and the work of Second Chances. The protests gave way to community events where activists and skeptics alike came together to support a shared cause. While disagreements still lingered, there was a growing sense of unity, a recognition that justice and forgiveness could coexist. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Travis found himself alone at the clinic, finishing up the day's tasks. Lucky trotted over, his tail wagging as he nuzzled Travis's leg. The gesture was simple but profound, a silent acknowledgement of the progress they had both made. For the first time in months, Travis felt a flicker of hope. He still had a long way to go, but for the first time he believed he could get there. Across town, Barron sat at his desk, drafting a speech for an upcoming event. He paused, glancing at a photo of Lucky on his computer screen. The journey had been messy and unpredictable, but it had also been transformative. As he typed the closing lines of his speech, Barron smiled. This wasn't the story he had expected to write, but it was one he was proud to be part of. Months later, the city of Los Angeles had settled into a rhythm, though the legacy of Lucky's story endured. The nonprofit continued to grow. More lives were touched, and the city of Los Angeles carried the lessons of the saga forward. For Barron, Clara, Travis, and Lucky, the story wasn't an ending. It was a beginning, a testament to the power of second chances and the enduring belief that even the smallest acts of kindness could change the world.